Welcome once again to Beef News and Notes, information for both the producer and the consumer of our great product, beef. Of course, COVID-19 continues to impact the supply chain, and that's not only here in the U.S., but also with our biggest trading partner up in Canada. Joining us on today's program is Harry Siemens. He is a Canadian farm broadcaster and commentator. And Harry, when it comes to supply chain issues, really the issues don't just handle American or Canadian issues.
First and foremost, we have everything moves by truck. Whether it's 100 feet, 1,000 feet, or 1,000 miles, or 10,000 miles, somewhere along the line, a truck. We need a driver and a truck to move our product. And if we don't get that product moved, and just going into the store, superstore, with my daughter just a few days ago, we were looking for stuff. And my daughter says, boy, this stuff sure looks picked over, right? Well, yeah, it's picked over because there just isn't as much of it as we're used to. The other thing, Rick Bergman, a good friend, a hog producer, is the president of the Canadian Pork Council. And I talked to him a few days ago, and he tells me that we have weanling pigs that we produce in Manitoba and Saskatchewan that the producers in the United States want. Some of those weanling pigs are not going across because we don't have enough truckers. Secondly, we have grain on the American side that we bring in, a lot of corn and soybeans, and to feed pigs over here, and they aren't coming in because a lot of the truckers just aren't vaxxed and they cannot cross the border. So right now, we have truckers across Canada protesting the fact that they want freedom of choice. They would love to continue to move product the way we've always moved it. But at the same time, we have trucking companies that have lost quite a few drivers because of the mandate where they cannot cross the border. So but that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that the trucking industry is growing older, just like me. As a farm broadcaster, I'm growing older. And there's not a lot of young guys that want to get into the business. And so with the demand for trucking freight increasing, we're seeing a decrease in drivers. And so, it's been a real challenge. So that's setting the stage.
Also, Harry, I know here in the U.S. we dealt with a lot of issues with drought this year for beef producers. Is that something similar that you guys saw out there in Canada?
Oh, my. As Rick Bergman told me as a president of the pork producers, he says we've got cattle producers in Alberta. They're waiting for feed. Some of them were like 3-4 days away from not having feed. And so that's why we need to move feed across. We've got programs going all over the place. So right now, as we started this discussion with COVID, we're fortunate on the farm. We have been able to, we're isolated to the large extent as far as the farmers are concerned. But we've had pork packing plants. We've had a beef packing plant in Alberta that were shut down because of COVID. And now we've got the feed issue. In Western Canada, we're about 60 to 65% of normal as far as the 2021 crop is concerned. Some producers got nothing, some got bumpers. So we've got a real challenge with feed, food, and freight. How's that? Triple F.
Harry, are producers having to, as we saw here in the U.S., kind of reduce their herd size when it comes to the feed issues, especially if it continues to be a dry and dry and cold winter?
I talked to a cattle producer yesterday, just east of where I live, and he's in fairly good shape because he got some more moisture. But he's telling me that a lot of the more senior producers further north, which we call the interlake around Winnipeg and north, the lakes where the American fishermen like to come and pick up our pickerel, and that's great. We love them. And, there's most of the cattle producers are in that area. And a lot of the older gentlemen, a lot of the older producers, they actually got rid of their entire herds already back in August, September, November of last year, just because, sure, they could get feed. But at $150 a bale, it just doesn't pencil out. Like you're not going to feed all these cattle all winter and then find out that you've lost $100 a cow when you take them to market. So yes, we have had our cow herd shrink because of the drought of 2021. But in the area where we have most of our cattle producers, which I just described, they've had issues with dry weather for 3 years. So, some of the guys just finally said, you know what, to heck with it. I'm getting out of the business. The prices were pretty good, so they were able to get some of that money, and the governments were being a little bit leeway where they could, where they could defer some of that income, so they wouldn't have to take a big hit in one particular year when selling off their cow herd. So yes, we have a real issue. I'm on a WhatsApp group with about 238 hog producers. Talk every day. I listen. I don't talk so much, but I get their stuff. And I just this morning, or was it yesterday? Guys are talking about barley, $10 a bushel. And if they can get it. And then the one guy said, well, once we get our crop in 2022, you know what, then the price will go back to normal. Yes, but what about $1,300 a ton fertilizer? Like whatever. I mean, I'm throwing out some numbers, but it makes a point that we've got input costs. My brother is farming, and he showed me his fertilizer bill. He had if he paid it by October 31st of last year, $174 an acre just fertilizer cost. And that's for canola, soybeans, and wheat. And so, you know what? He can afford it. But at the same time, a lot of guys cannot. And so we've got a real challenge all the way around.
And we've been talking with Harry Siemens. He is a Canadian farm broadcaster and commentator, talking about the ongoing supply chain issues for both beef, hog, and grain farmers in the U.S. and Canada.